I learned about MeBeBot when we had attended some M&A roundtable sessions together. When I looked into the website, it immediately made sense to me.
I mean, the idea, and like you, I also spent years in shared services for a large company. So this was a real problem I saw 20 years ago, and it was handled by individual emails, phone calls back to people. 60% were at a tier where they were a quick question, answer, move on. And then the issues that became escalated, or tier two and tier three, are items that really need a lot of human intervention and attention from people. And those are things like, a person who has cancer and is struggling to understand their explanation of benefits from their insurance company, and they may need help from HR, and they're negotiating family medical leave on top of a lot of other complexities, in their life. That's the work that needs to be done by the human, and free up the time from those individuals to take care of employees when they really need that specialized attention. And now, as consumers, we're used to getting answers really quickly to our questions using our mobile phones and devices like Siri or Alexa, where you can ask a quick question, get a quick answer, no matter what time or day. And why not bring that technology into the workplace and really help facilitate that level of support to people where it's 24/7? A lot of folks from the millennial and Gen Z, talking to a human and asking a simple question just seems like a distraction. Why not just ask something that they've been utilizing for years now, which are AI chatbots and other types of self-service support?
When I saw integrated into Slack and Teams, I'm like, well, this is just brilliant. That's where we're in the last 18 months. That's where we live, and that's where we work. And while we're on in-person meetings, we're still running that in the background. So putting access to the information that big groups of people need within that environment is, I think, just brilliant.
Well, to that note, that was really game changing to us, and to, frankly, MeBeBot coming to fruition, because to have a solution, you need to have something that's accessible and available, systems and tools in the flow of work, and that's the way you drive adoption to technology, especially around people-centric technologies. And to have the solution in the place that most employees, given certain industries and types of workers, are spending the more or less the majority of their day, that makes sense.
I think every business has an origin story. So
Absolutely.
what is your
Yeah. I
origin
mean,
story?
well, to that first point, having spent years in HR, I saw this problem existing, meaning no matter what job or company I went to, or what level I moved into in that company, employees have questions. And frankly, I felt a little underserved by a lot of the technology out in the industry. I spent many years, sometimes at very large companies, and the latter years in HR in more small and mid-sized businesses. And many times there was great technology out there that I could grab onto, but it was unaffordable for the mid-market and small businesses. To treat employees the way we treat consumers, to really learn about them, learn about their habits and what interests them, find out content that we can serve to them that's going to be meaningful and impactful, and really help them be their best selves within the workplace. And it wasn't until, as you mentioned, Brandon, the influx of using tools like Slack and Teams did, really the chatbots come to fruition, where you had a place to put this chatbot within inside the business ecosystem. So it was kind of this perfect storm of things happening. It was, the uptick of the solutions for collaboration, the advances in AI and natural language processing, and frankly, chatbot technology. A lot of that's the same type of tools, as we mentioned in Alexa and Siri. And then bringing it into the workplace now, when employees are consumers, and they're more familiar with these tools now, and they're more trusting of it. They know that it can be very beneficial to them. So I think things had to kind of converge to make things come to fruition. But that's really how the idea came about, is like, how do we serve up a more enriched employee experience like consumers have?
Do you
And
remember what that initial opportunity was where you said yes, and the rest is history?
absolutely. Debbie Smith, I credit her from E2 Open. I had approached her. Debbie and I worked together years in the past, and she's just one of these leaders I always looked up to. And she said, "This sounds like a fabulous idea. Like, how do we see if we can make it work here?" And so we were able to utilize E2 Open as our beta customer and put together a solution that helped, facilitate the needs of the HR questions that their team was getting, mostly because they were in this really unique predicament. They were going from having 700 employees to now 2,500 employees. So they went through rapid growth through mergers and acquisitions. So they were privately or publicly traded, brought back private, and then they went through 13 acquisitions in 3 years. And at times, the HR team, the operations IT team, they weren't growing their headcount to support this transition and all these changes. So I called it like Groundhog Day for them. It's like every time they turned around, they don't often get a lot of notice when an acquisition might be happening, and you've got a couple hundred people. You may have 60, you might have 300 people all starting on the same day. All those nervous new employees that are coming over from an acquisition that have all the types of questions a new hire has, but probably with a little bit more anxiety layered on top. Right? So we were able to really help solve their business need. It translated into the IT team saying, "Well, wait a minute, if you're doing this for HR, can you help us with our tier one level support questions?" And so we were able to not only launch MeBeBot for HR, but we quickly added in content and to support both IT and what we call operations, like facilities, some of the questions around, workspaces and equipment, and even accounting and finance content too, around expense reports, procurement, all the types of questions employees have when they're getting started at a new role in a company. That we understand the business problem, and we know the core of the employee experience, meaning many folks on our team came out of HR or IT. So we have the business knowledge. We brought in experts on AI and natural language processing to help us build the solution, but it was always business problem first. Having the grasp of, how these problems exist inside businesses, and always putting our customers first, is what is key to our success. We like to think that we selectively almost choose our customers like they choose us. We look for people that we think are innovation partners, that they get what we're doing. Just like you said, Brandon, when you came to our website, it was like light bulbs went off and you got it. We're in Austin, Texas. We won the Austin Tech Madness contest, which I was extremely happy and proud of our team, for getting the acknowledgement that they deserve. And in a city that is really drawing a lot of amazing technology companies, to be able to be selected spoke volumes, because to be amongst companies that are frankly rocket scientists and biomedical engineering firms, and yet the people chose our solution, it just shows you that people are grasping and looking for new ways to be supported within their workplaces.
Any lessons learned that you could share with folks who are helping progress the HR function? They're helping HR professionals do more value added work. Like, what advice would you give them?
So in my mind, I think we need to just rethink, like, what value does HR bring to the organization? Where do we want to share our expertise? How can we really move, employees to where they need to go in companies? And what pieces of that puzzle are not beneficial in our day in and day out lives. And if you ask someone just to sit down and do that exercise, they would come up with this as something that can be carved out. Rethink what they're doing, or some people are ready. They're like, hey, I went to school, I have a master's degree. This takes an hour or two of my time every day to facilitate answers to questions. The things that move the needle forward are what the HR talents should be expressly utilized for. And the companies that we find gravitate to us today are those companies that get it, that they're already ready to move that into that new business model. Take a week of time and just jot down on a piece of paper, like how much time you spend answering types of questions that, may come into that are routine. Just take a look at it. This isn't about job elimination. It's about job elevation. The really strong leaders with inside companies will show their team that path, and therefore they won't feel threatened by technology like MeBeBot, because they'll see it allows them to evolve their career into a direction that they'd like to go, at the same time servicing the needs of the employee in a more creative and new way that perhaps is maybe even better than what they could have done before. I mean, who can provide 24/7 service,
My experience has been HR professionals are very committed, very conscientious. They want to serve the customers with
Right.
excellence. I think having these solutions in place would have made a big difference. Certainly, Teams did. Having this type of an integration for a portion of what we do integrated into that environment would have made a big difference.
Last January of 2020, we began working with Epicor software as a customer, and Epicor has over 4,000 employees in 30 different countries, and they were growing quickly. They were also owned by private equity, expanding, adding more people and more people to their team, and they saw the need for MeBeBot. They had centralized support for IT questions and answers, but not for HR. They had an inbox, which is not uncommon, where all the tickets or employee inquiries were going into one centralized place, and they were dividing it out and getting answers to individuals' questions as one-off. Because we have this admin portal that allows our customers to go in and update answers, we were able to give the employees up-to-the-minute answers to things like, when are we returning to the office? And what's the protocol for this? And how is this changing? And we were able to see on our dashboard with our customer, Epicor, the kinds of questions employees were asking, so that they had a little bit more insight into the pulse of their people when it was the first time a company with a culture of everybody being at work had people dispersed. Within the first week of the product going live, we had over 800 questions that we answered for their employee base, and they continue to use the product for the purposes of all the change management processes that are going on in businesses today, from changing a payroll system to a benefits program to return to work. These are all very impactful events to employees.
Are you seeing use cases where they're saying, hey, we'd like that to engage with our LMS, and we'd like that to engage with our applicant tracking system?
Not only do we facilitate, getting employees answers to questions, just like, your Siri or Alexa does, but just like, frankly, Alexa does, you can connect to Amazon now and order products, or Whole Foods and order groceries. So that was always where we wanted to bring the product, is to be the new, what we call user experience or front end to the whole employee experience. So how do we become that facilitation process to serve up content from other systems of record and systems of information? And so that's really the emphasis of MeBeBot moving forward, is we want to be that front end, so that if I say, how do I get more training on this particular topic, instead of having to go to that LMS solution, look through that library, we can actually serve up with an integration from that company, a link to where that content lives. They can click on that link within Slack or Teams and launch that training right there and then. The more we start to interface and engage with the employee, and the more we start to personalize the experience, meaning we know who the employee is, what geographic location they're potentially from, what role they have within the organization, and we can start to see the kinds of interactions they have with MeBeBot, we can apply predictive analytics and insights. And that way, we're helping serve up information from other systems, which I love because then we can support the ecosystem of technologies that companies invest in. And one thing that we're working on that will be released this quarter is functionality around what we call pulse surveys. Today, we facilitate answering questions for employees in an automatic fashion. And now being able to survey employees and ask them really poignant questions.
That extension, I think, makes a lot of sense. I was just thinking about the onboarding experience, right? You're not going to frustrate our bot. You can ask all the questions you want.
Right.
I could see it being really helpful. Beth, if you were going to be contacted by somebody watching this video, what would you like to be contacted for, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I think what we'd like to be contacted for is a demo. Come see our product. Let us show you how it works. Take a look, because once I think they see that we have this curated library of content already, and you simply become an editor of the content. And so the words AI and natural language processing, if that seems really scary, don't worry about it. We take care of all that part of it. You just simply have to work on what answer do you want to hear or see your employees receiving.
I think this is something that folks should really take a look at.